Welcome back. Let's continue here now. International Relations Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor has called on the powerful nations such as the United States of America to use their power to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered in Gaza. The United Nations says the situation is dire and many children are going to die from hunger if aid is not delivered. The minister was hosting her Danish counterpart in Pretoria, where the issue was discussed, speaking to the SABC International news editor Sophie Mokoena.
Minister, the issue of the Middle East ahead of Ramadan, there's a huge concern that we are likely to see the Middle East observing Ramadan and the world. And on the other hand, the bombs and the war and the guns will continue to ravage Gaza. What is South Africa's position at this critical juncture?
We think at this moment that everybody should be focused on an immediate ceasefire. We've asked our ambassador at the UN to make all efforts to talk to other ambassadors to really encourage urgent consideration of a resolution for an immediate ceasefire. We think that's where the world should be focused right now. Otherwise, we see a terrible catastrophe, even worse than what we've observed unfolding. I wish I could say to the people of Palestine and all Muslims, Ramadan Mubarak. But for the people of Palestine, I'm just seeing a very deadly situation if the world does not address this urgent matter of an immediate ceasefire.
Minister, you spoke about powerful countries having to ensure that they are able to push and deliver aid in Gaza. You spoke about even using military. Can you briefly tell us what do you mean?
Well, we all know that the most important friends of Israel are the United Kingdom, United States of America, and countries in Europe. If those countries, which are extremely powerful militarily, could come together and say, we see the harm, we see the suffering, we see the denial of food, water, and energy. We know that there are over 600 trucks ready to deliver aid to people in need, to avoid starvation. If they said to do so, we are ready to have our troops safely escort all those trucks so that aid is truly provided. I think this would be such a signal of a humanitarian response that merits attention by the world, that all of us would then be able to thank those powerful countries for having made a movement for peace and for saving lives.
Malema says they did put through a motion in Parliament to close Israel and cut the relations with Israel. How far is that process in relation to government? Because clearly DERCO will be the department that will have better information.
Well, the Embassy of South Africa is closed at present. I am not seeing any change in relations or an improvement in the situation of the people of Palestine. But as I've said previously, the decision lies with the Cabinet. And Cabinet has to consider this matter fully, as well as all its implications, including, as I've said before, the diplomatic status of South Africa's embassy in Ramallah, which is granted such status by the government that is occupying Palestine, which is Israel. So all these matters must be taken into account before Cabinet makes a determination as to what to do. But the embassy is closed today.
Let's talk about the ICJ. You received a report from Israel. Yes, we know that the ICJ indicated that it will communicate the report. But what are you doing with that report? Because clearly Israel is not complying.
Well, Sophie, all we can do is act within the prescripts of international law. And South Africa is doing that very correctly, which is what we always hoped Israel would do. The report by Israel was handed to the ICJ, to the registrar of the court, And as per practice, the registrar has provided a copy to South Africa for comment by South Africa. Our legal team are looking at the report and they're preparing a response with the government, and that will be sent through to the ICJ.
Still on the ICJ matter, the leader of the opposition in South Africa, the leader of the DA, is saying that it is too early to characterize what's happening in Gaza as a genocide. What's your view?
Well, I think this is for the court to decide. I wonder, did he characterize it? I'd be very keen to know how he describes killing thousands of people, denying them food, denying them water, denying them energy, telling them to move to one area and killing them as they move, and then bombarding them in the area to which they've moved. What did he determine that to be?
Are you getting any sense that there's some movement in terms of the two groups, the talks that are facilitated by Qatar, Egypt, United States of America, and the others? They were in Paris, and weekend we were told that the talks happened in Egypt, Cairo.
I think the talks were to continue in Cairo. My colleague, Minister Shukri, assured me that Egypt, and we can see it, is making every effort to try to bring the two parties together. My understanding at this point, I don't know whether the situation has changed, is that Israel hasn't sent a negotiating team to the meeting in Cairo. We hope that that situation will change and that indeed a ceasefire would be agreed upon. But at this moment, I remain terrified that we are going to see more harm to the people of Palestine, and I'm just feeling totally useless as a human being that we are unable to rescue people from their deadly situation.